revolution. Hey, good morning. It is a Monday morning, brand new week. Hope you had a great weekend. Got out and about, even with the snow on the East Coast. For those of you who are watching us in North Carolina and South Carolina, gosh, I guess you got what we didn't get. At least in Richmond, we went into the weekend expecting several inches of snow, didn't get it. And I talked to a couple of folks who watch this show regularly who are on the border of North Carolina and South Carolina. It sounds like they're going to be locked up and frozen in for a while. And, you know, I knew it was going to be bad because that guy from the Weather Channel was reporting live from, the Outer Banks. So what's his name, Jim Cantori? When he shows up, you got to figure you're in for something bad happening. They get every forecast wrong, right? Every forecast seems to be messed up. I would watch Jim Cantori where he is, and that seems to indicate that the real meteorologists are tracking where the storm is going to be bad or whether the snow is going to be bad, and they stick him there. Just forget the forecast. Just watch where he is. And if he's not there, you're fine. If he's there, batten down the hatches because you got a problem. But, if you are one of the people who's still not dug out, and here in Central Virginia, there are lots of schools that continue to be closed. I just don't get it. I mean, I didn't want to make a big deal out of it last week and insult people. I guess it's all about the buses. You know, if you can't put the buses on the road safely, if you can't guarantee that the bus isn't going to flip over, then the whole society grinds to a halt. And I have to be fair with parents. If you've got nobody to take care of your kids, what are you supposed to do? So, there's a cascading effect here where you've got kids who can't go to school and then parents who can't work. And I'm not a big let's find daycare for everybody. I don't think that's the government's obligation. I don't think that's the obligation of some bureaucracy. People have been finding people to care for their children, and it's kind of a fundamental obligation that you've got as a parent. They've been doing this for thousands of years. So why are we suddenly creating an entire infrastructure to take care of that? But in all fairness, if you're counting on your kids going to school, and here we are a full week later, and school is still canceled, what in the heck do you do? We should think about this. I don't want to say that we're just a completely soft society, because the last thing I want to do is put a bus is be the guy who says, "Oh, let's put the bus out there." The bus flips over and 3 kids are killed, and that can't happen. But what have we done where we've set up a situation where some buses can't run, but the school system shuts down for days and days and days and days? Now this is week 2. Is that acceptable? Why is that acceptable? Why is that something that we're willing to tolerate? I mean, I really do think that we need to look at ourselves as a society and say, are we allowing impediments, natural impediments that have existed since the dawn of time? Like, snow is not new. This is not some sort of revolutionary impediment here. And for some reason, just in the last couple of decades, it has become the kind of thing that shut down society. I mean, here's something I'm going to agree with Barack Obama on. Honestly, when he moved into the White House at the beginning of his term, he was hypercritical of D.C. Like, what's wrong with you guys? Because the Chicago people, they get going. In Boston, I mean, if you're in Boston, now granted they have a different infrastructure to get rid of snow, but I just find it weird. And I look around and I see this happening time and time again. There's always some reason that we say, oops, we're out. We can't do it today. We can't do it today. Like last week, I think it's debatable, but the Broadway actors all freaked out. And they don't live like this person, Donna. I agree with you. Back roads are an issue. The roads here are terrible outside of my house. I'm lucky I got a Ford Explorer. I can get out. But does society shut down because of that? the Broadway actors, the whole theme of being an actor is the show must go on, right? Somebody falls from the ceiling and dies during an acrobat act. The show doesn't stop. We scoop their body up and get them off the stage, and the show continues. Is that cruel and unusual punishment to the other performers, or is that the mindset of the show must go on? And is that based on money? We don't want to offer refunds, so the evil capitalists uh, don't care about the health of their performers so on Broadway in Manhattan, where people walk all the time, the actors unions were freaking out because the producer said, "Oh no, we're going to continue on with the show. We have a 2 o'clock matinee that people have paid $250 per ticket to come to. They may or may not be able to come, but if we cancel, then we owe everybody. And you can only cancel a show a certain number of times financially before you find yourself in a real bind. And quite frankly, these shows are barely making it as it is." Again, because the unions have made the cost so exorbitant to run. That's not my problem. It's entertainment. There are worse things that could happen in society, as we are seeing, than having a bunch of upset actors. But I was watching this back and forth in some of the little chats that I follow and some of the accounts that I follow, thinking, man, uh, this is not new in New York City for there to be a snowstorm. And all of you are just demanding that everything shut down for you. I don't get it. I mean, if they're going to do that in a very walkable place like Manhattan, I guess everywhere else, we've just decided that we're not going to be the tough people who the weather doesn't impact at all. We just keep on going, right? That's not the mindset of America anymore. That's interesting because that's different from the mindset of decades ago. I think that we will not be stopped mindset was kind of a part of the American genetic code, if you will, cultural genetic code. And then you go to a place like Spain or France, and their genetic cultural code is, long lunch. Maybe we come back. Maybe we'll show up to open the store. We'll open for a couple of hours in the evening after we took 3 or 4 hours off and we went and took a nap, or we went and had sex with our mistress, or I mean, that's just, they're different. People want to act like we're the same all around the world. We're not. This was kind of a unique mindset. And I think I know what I'm talking about. I don't think I'm making this up. I don't think I'm romanticizing something from the past, because in the 70s and 80s, I just don't think it was this soft. But is that us getting soft, or is that a result of the litigious country that we live in, where you make one mistake or somebody gets hurt, even if it's not a mistake, and suddenly you're bankrupted with lawsuits? I mean, is that what's changed this? I just think that's interesting. And here on this Monday, when I've got all these people who are saying, "Oh, we're not going to work today," I mean, it's great that people can work from home. Maybe that solves the problem. But do you think I'm wrong that culturally there's a big distinction here compared to the protesters are out in the snow? I mean, right? Isn't that interesting? Remember in COVID, the protesters were out protesting. The rest of us were threatened with jail if we showed up and didn't stand 6 feet apart at the airport once the airports opened, or we made somebody feel uncomfortable because we didn't want to wear a mask out in an open air situation. That was the kind of thing where there'd almost be mob violence against you if you rebelled against the directives of the government. Meanwhile, the Antifa, burn, loot, murder, BLM crowd was still out marching around, and everybody acted like this is almost like two different worlds. Oh, it's okay if you're in a mob of 10,000 people protesting on behalf of a dead drug addict, then it's okay. the different standards for different people all across the United States. And President Trump has pulled out, essentially, of a lot of these blue states. Um, I guess strategically, is that smart? Hey, okay. Everywhere we go, everywhere ICE goes, you try to kill people, and you're literally in the street with barricades, preventing people from moving around, and then we're getting blamed for it. So we'll back off, and I'll just squeeze you with financial incentives to stop behaving this way, or at least get some of the uh, legislators to feel the squeeze, some of the mayors, some of the boards of supervisors, some of the governors to go, oh my God, well, I can't go a couple of months without federal money. And the truth is they can't. But is that a smart thing for them to do? That seems problematic to me too. I think, even though I'm sure that the president and his team have made a calculated decision that this brings the temperature down a little bit, or they're hoping it will bring the temperature down, what it's going to do is embolden the bad guys. It's going to embolden the radicals. It's going to embolden the people who, they don't give a damn about ICE. They never cared about ICE. They never cared about immigration enforcement before. Under Democrat presidents, they didn't even know what was going on. They did not care. But they've found something where they can exploit 15 seconds of video and emotionally manipulate the decent people and the people who just aren't paying attention, and they're going to do that. So I feel like we're getting played here. I don't know what I would do if I was president, because it's not a happy situation. And you look at this race in Texas, which everybody says is this is for the state Senate in Texas. And apparently it's a very solid Republican seat, and the Democrat just walloped the Republican. I've been hearing this morning, oh, poor candidate. Was it? I don't know. Some Republican lady, was she a poor candidate? That's kind of the default position when Republicans lose right now, for the establishment to say, poor candidate, oh, they ran a terrible campaign, they didn't know what they were talking about. Is it? If it's something that you could win, not like Virginia, where things are really tight and you got to match dollar for dollar every dollar that the Democrats spend, and you have to work your butt off to even have a chance of winning, just with the dynamic, the numbers game that is Virginia. Is it poor candidate choice? Is it poor campaigns? Or is there something else going on here that says we have a problem? We have I hate to say tidal wave, but we've got a problem that's looming here that really doesn't look good for the midterms. I hate to tell you, I think it's the latter. I think we got a big problem. And, it's hard to compete with the national media constantly beating the drum that, they're armed marauders in the streets from the government, kidnapping American citizens and murdering American citizens. That's total BS, and we all know it. That is a lie. It's not true. This is not any sort of totalitarian movement that is revealing itself on the streets of the United States. It's just not true. This is a group of law enforcement officials who are enforcing laws that have been on the books for 30 years, and it's being exploited by the left. And we should be aware of that. We shouldn't be emotionally manipulated. And I keep saying, show me all these American citizens who are being detained and swept up. And what? Where are they? Where are they? Show me the mother of an American citizen who has disappeared for weeks on, we don't know where he is. Oh my God, he's just disappeared. Is he alive? Is he, are they sending torture videos? That happens in Central and South America. That does happen. People disappear in the middle of the night and you never hear from them again. And they got crosswise with some local official, either a criminal boss or a local government official. They said something, or they didn't pay some sort of protection money, or they just, they were hooking up with the daughter of somebody who's in the government, and the next thing you know, the person disappears. That does happen, but I mean, am I wrong? That's not happening here. That's not happening here. The worst thing that I have seen, and I would invite someone to correct me if I'm mistaken. The worst thing that I have seen is that there have been a few cases of mistaken identity where someone has been temporarily detained and released who's an American citizen. That there have been many American citizens who are breaking the law by interfering, by blocking the roads and impeding other citizens and spitting on cops and attacking cops, and they've been arrested. But I'm fine with that. Honestly, I think we cannot tolerate this behavior in the streets. I mean, we are rapidly on a trajectory towards third world status, and it's evidenced by the way people protest. This is no longer someone standing on the street corner in Hyde Park in London admonishing the government and trying to convince people that the government is wrong and using their rhetorical skills to try to convince the public to pressure the government to change a policy. That's not what's happening. This is the kind of garbage that we see in Central and South America and in some parts of the Middle East and Africa, where uneducated people have an emotional reaction. And in the modern era, it's manipulated by social media and the media. And they rush into the streets with pots and pans, screaming, signs with stupid statements, and chaos ensues. And then the government has to figure out whether they adjust. Do we give the people, and it's not the people, it's a small group of people who've just decided to be, well, I'll clean up my language, not very nice. And do you capitulate to the mob on a regular basis? Is that how this country is going to be run now? The mob runs the country. If you're a big enough media outlet, you can manipulate the emotions of enough people where you can get them to walk out of their job, walk out of their school, and don't get me started on these stupid kids who don't know anything. I'm so sorry. I thought I knew everything at the age of 15. And maybe you do. Maybe you're a genius. But you know what? You're not 18 yet. And you don't get to walk out of school and protest. You can do whatever you want on your own time with your parents' permission. But if you're not in school, I think you flunked the kid. Valedictorian, know-it-all valedictorian, flunk the kid. Why are we allowing this kind of chaos to even interrupt the serious conversation from people who have actually been around the block, who have some skin in the game, who are trying, hopefully, to make reasonable decisions? This is all planned, and it's a part of a larger plot, I think, to destabilize the government of Virginia, the government of the United States, and force a change to something that's way to the left on the political spectrum. And our guest in a little bit, G. Van Fleet, who, if you've been to the Virginia Forum, the speaker series here in Richmond, you heard G. Van Fleet talk about her life escaping communist China and her very real concerns that the communist plot and the playbook is being executed right in front of our face. I think that's something to be concerned about. And she'll join us. She's got a new book out. We'll talk about the new book that's coming up in a couple of minutes. I don't ever want to do this show and sound like I'm just ranting, but if you spend a weekend and you cut on the TV at any given time for an hour and you analyze based on what you're seeing, or social media for an hour, we got a problem on our hands, and it's really concerning. I do want to share with you before we go take a break and before we come back with G. I went this weekend, Friday night, opening night for the movie Melania, and it seems like the thing did pretty well, right? Opening of a documentary. They're not really popular movies. All right, so it earned $7 million. I think it was closer to $8 million. So maybe The Guardian went to press a little. I think it was closer to $8 million. Strongest documentary debut in over a decade. People don't really rush to see documentaries the way they do the latest Star Wars movie or Avatar 10 or whatever it is, or whatever the pop culture entertainment is. So this is interesting that Melania, and it doesn't surprise me, Trump world has very, very loyal people who will buy a Trump watch or will, um, if there's a product that the Trump machine, and I'm not saying that in a derogatory sense, the Trump company is promoting, they will consume it. They'll be excited about that. And I guess I'm one of those people on some level. I just get so sick and tired of the media dumping on anyone and everything that has to do with Trump that I called my mother and my sister and I said, hey, Melania's new movie is out on its opening night on Friday. You want to go? So we went to the 7 o'clock showing in Short Pump. And for those of you who are watching from outside of Virginia, Short Pump, it used to be very rural part of Virginia. Now it's suburban. There's a big mall. The movie theater's connected to the big mall. One of the few, I think, semi-successful open-air malls that's still functional in America today. I think it's still doing pretty well. So there are a lot of people all day and all night, different backgrounds. It's in Henrico County, which used to be really solid Republican territory back when my father represented it in the House of Delegates. Not anymore, unfortunately. You've had a lot of people move here from the north who escaped Yankee land with the high taxes and the crazy social policies and moved to these very livable places in Virginia, and now they're going to ruin Virginia because they continue to vote for the crazy leftists who ruined their own hometown. But okay. I mean, I don't know what to do. If you don't see that you're the problem, you and your commitment to leftist ideology, that's what ruined New Jersey. That's what ruined parts of Connecticut. I'm still beautiful houses. You're making enough money, you can live a good life there because you isolate yourself and you don't have to deal with all the other people who are having to, who are going down the toilet. But that's what we're dealing with. So I kind of wondered, is this the place to go? I was looking at the different spots where you could see the movie. There was a theater in downtown Richmond. Oh, my God, I was sure I was not going to go see it at the theater in any downtown area. Oh, hell no. I'm not doing that. So I went and picked up my mom. She's on oxygen, so we have to be kind of careful, and it's an endeavor to go from place to place with her. I was surprised she really wanted to go see the movie. So we went to see the movie. My sister met us at the theater. We get into the lobby. I've pre-bought the tickets. And I look out of the corner of my eye, and this is the shocking thing. No signs for Melania the movie anywhere. Opening, Friday. There are probably 7 or 8 movie posters on this side, 7 or 8 movie posters on this side. Coming attractions. Here's what's playing now. Nothing about Melania. Is that weird? I mean, I'm not surprised because I think these companies, unless they're getting directly paid, culturally, it's okay to shaft Republicans. And if that's Trump, if that's Melania, if that's you, that's me, culturally, it's okay to shaft Republicans. I didn't see one poster. I looked around. I guess it's possible I missed something. Possible. I don't think likely. No movie poster on the way to the theater. At least it said Melania in the theater where the movie was going to be shown. I appreciate the fact that they didn't come up with some, code word for like M, the movie. But the whole society capitulates to the worst people in the society. Oh, we can't have the Melania poster up. I mean, maybe the Melania people didn't send a poster. I don't know what the arrangement is for these things. I thought every film that opened on the weekend, part of the package was you got the poster and you put it up. And it didn't even look to me like it was listed as one of the films that was showing at the theater. Like you had to know and you had to look on Fandango and you had to buy the tickets. If they weren't going to promote anything to do with this. I thought that was weird, obnoxious. But I got to tell you, after more than a decade of being shafted as a Republican, it didn't surprise me. How horrible is that that I've reached a place where I'm just used to being disrespected. Everybody's so worried about, oh, you disrespected me, and then they throw a fit. At the Kentucky Fried Chicken or at the it could be at the art museum downtown. If you're disrespected, man, you can throw hands and slap somebody around and use the F word and cuss people. I don't do that, but I felt disrespected pretty constantly over the last decade or so. Especially when it comes to Trump. But I don't think it's just Trump. I think it's kind of any Republican. I felt that way when George W. Bush was president. And, I was in D.C. working in the Senate. I had to kind of be careful about when people asked me what my job was. I just had to be cautious about how I explained my job because, I think I've told you, I had, at least on one occasion, somebody threw a drink in my face. And that was a difficult moment to restrain from beating that person down or, taking a bottle and hitting them upside the head. I think they would have deserved it, but I didn't want to go to jail, and that's just not usually my demeanor because I was raised to be a dignified person and not behave like that. So it's difficult for someone like me who was raised to live in a civilized society to now adjust to living in an uncivilized society. But out of the corner of my eye, as I'm helping my mother put her oxygen on, I look, and these three, I don't know, were they boys, were they men, young men, they're probably young, all dressed in black like Columbine killers, like trench coat, some sort of beanie cap. It's just happening out of the corner of my eye, and they're wearing black masks, COVID masks. Who's doing that? Who's doing that these days? Except weirdos. And legitimately people who are worried about being infected. But I noticed it. I was like, oh, God, please tell me they're not going to Melania. I don't need to deal with it. Yes, that's where they were going. They were going to the Melania movie. And it didn't look to me like anybody checked their ticket. I don't know if they work at the theater or they were, I don't know what the deal was. So they go into the Melania Theater. Eventually, my mother on a walker with oxygen, with me holding her so she has, is stable. We get into the theater. I'd picked seats right near the door so that it would be easy for her. The movie starts. There's some sort of conflict in the back of the theater. F you, get the F out. It's like, what is going on here? I don't know what went down. I don't know who started what. I kept looking behind me like, all right, are we about to have a problem here? Am I going to have to get involved in this? And then I'm going to wind up going to jail, right? That'll be good. Maybe all publicity is good publicity. Going to jail, maybe that would help the ratings of this podcast. But with my mother there, my sister there, I didn't want to have a problem. But the manager comes in, the manager goes to the back of the theater, throws these three out, it seems. I think that's what happened. We're trying to just stay focused on the movie, like civilized people do. Oh, let's not pay attention to the bad behavior over here. I'm just telling you, the whole 2 hours that I'm in the theater, I keep looking out of the corner of my eye, watching the movie, looking to the door, because let me be honest with you. I'm thinking, are these not very nice people? Again, I want to watch my language, even though it's a podcast and I could say whatever I want. Are they going out to the parking lot to get a gun to come in and kill us in the movie theater? They're dressed in black. Seriously, they looked, I'm not making it up. They looked like, I noticed them immediately. They looked like the Columbine kids. And wearing masks and then getting into a conflict. And then I'm thinking, all right, maybe they don't want to kill everybody, but did they throw a smoke bomb in here? Do they, what? Who knows? Nothing happened. We left. I talked to the security guard. It looked like they had vacated the premises. They weren't in the parking lot. We didn't have any encounters. Other people who were in the theater noticed the same thing I did. But this is telling. You can't go to the Melania movie where she picks out the dress she's going to wear at the inauguration and talks about being concerned about being assassinated as she walks in the inaugural parade. I don't want to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but I thought that was something that was kind of, especially after what I went through last year, having to wear a bulletproof vest, running for lieutenant governor, which is crazy. You can't go to a movie in the suburbs without someone who's a radical creating some sort of threat for you. I haven't done anything wrong. I'm going to the movies. You don't get to pick and choose what movies I go to see. I'm not in anybody's face. I'm not obnoxious about it. I just went to the movies. I took my mother to the movies. Am I not able to go see the Melania movie without worrying about some scuzzbag, belligerent leftist ruining the experience? I mean, my mom got to watch the movie. I don't think she was aware of some of the things that I was tracking. I was thinking, do I have to jump? If they show up, do I jump across her and try to tackle them at the door? What happens if that happens? Do I wind up dead? Assuming they're trying to kill people. I mean, I don't want to act like I'm overthinking it, but you're in my situation. I'm the only male anywhere near the door. Maybe this is my moment where I got to stop something bad from happening instead of just going to the movies. You can't go to the movies. This is the society we're turning into, and I'm over it. I'm over it. So if you expect me to feel bad that there are people being arrested for attacking police officers, you got another thing coming. If you're out there behaving like this, I said this in 2020, and I was roundly criticized. If you are out there rioting in the streets, if you are damaging other people's property, if you are impeding other people and their commerce, you need to go to jail. Now, that doesn't mean you have to agree with me. Go start your own freaking podcast and talk about what you care about. Maybe you can convince everybody that you're right. Go downtown. The General Assembly is meeting 13 miles from that movie theater. Go downtown and hold a stupid little sign in front of the legislators and try to get them to change their opinion. Go speak in front of one of the committees. You got social media. You can be obnoxious as you want on social media, I suppose. I mean, it's pretty revealing the way people behave. But this whole idea that you are so morally right, and you're not, and you get to go and cause trouble for other people, get into verbal altercations, if not physical altercations, that has got to stop. And I've had enough of it. And what I saw in 2020 was held off for about 4 years because we had a Republican governor who I think everybody was a little worried that maybe he would, and a Republican attorney general, that maybe they'd actually be prosecuted, even if the Democrats didn't want them prosecuted, that maybe there'd be consequences. But now that it's all Democrats, it's emboldened the radicals. We got a problem on our hands. That's a tiny little story about a movie that I think is illustrative of what we're dealing with culturally across the board. People are losing their jobs. They're not being hired. There is a shift and a change that's happening in this culture today. And some of us are going to have to be bold enough to stand up and say, get the hell out. We're not tolerating that. And there are going to have to be some leaders who impose consequences, not against people that we disagree with necessarily, but people who behave badly. Can't tolerate it anymore. I'm over it. Over it. All right, let's take a quick break. I think maybe I've teed up G. Van Fleet to share her perspective on this. I don't know if she's had a story in a contemporary sense that mirrors what I've shared, but I think she's going to say, hey, this is not benign. This is not organic. This is a part of a plot. But we'll talk to G. Van Fleet when we return here on this Monday on the Reid Revolution. We're back on this Monday morning, the Reid Revolution, and we're joined now by one of my favorite people, the noted author who escaped communist China and really got a great deal of attention with her first book called Mao's America. She kind of articulated what happened to her, what she witnessed with the communist revolution, and the devastation that brought to her native country. And now she's an American. Ji Van Fleet is with us. Her new book, Made in America, is just out. She's making the rounds on all the big national talk shows. So, Ji, I'm glad that you're still willing to come and talk to me. I appreciate that. Tell me,
Absolutely.
well, first,
Thank you so
for
much
people
for
who aren't
having
familiar
me.
with you,
Mhm.
did I get it right? The little synopsis about how you arrived at being an advocate and someone who's going to expose this movement on the shores of the United States?
Yeah, and I listened to the entire episode before I got in, and you're so right, but you're so nice. You're just being nice about those nasty people. And I have to say, really, America has been undergoing Marxist cultural revolution since the 60s, going back really to 30s. But what we see today is no less than communist insurrection. Things getting really, really bad. A lot of people would say, now Republicans in power, they have White House, Supreme Court, and the Congress. Really? But we don't have control. We lost control for decades of all institutions, especially the educational institution. The phenomenon you describe is because they have been in power for too long. And they own people's mind because they own the institutions of, at first, universities. Now it's like a kindergarten. That's right. They want government to get into childcare. They own their mind. And what kind of a mind they have, brainwashed and brain dead. And just like the Red Guards, they do not want to know the fact. They just want to do it. Basically, they want to answer the call of their party boss. And it's just so frightening for me to see the same thing that's going on in this country. And I went to I gave a speech in an organization last week, and there's one person asked the question, you call those people on the left communist, and the people on the left call the people on the right fascism. Can we just find a common ground? Sorry, there's no common ground. That time of finding common ground has long passed. And it's really what's going on is for the survival of this republic. It's really boils down to good and evil, boils down to freedom and communism or totalitarianism.
What do you do to fix this situation? Do you find people who are bold enough to stand up and say very clearly, this is right and this is wrong, and under our system, we can have a debate, but we're not going to tolerate this behavior? That's kind of where I've landed here.
Yeah, you said that. It is now an insurrection, and there's no common ground. Absolutely common. You think they're just protesters? Anyone who has eyes to see will see it's not a protest anymore. It is absolutely insurrection. They interfere and they obstruct the operation of the ICE. ICE is not just an organization. ICE is federal government reinforce the law. And that's one thing about people on the right. We have so much to learn from the communists about their propaganda. They absolutely control. They control the media, for one thing, but they also control the narrative. And so I listen to so many videos of the left talking about what's going on the street of Annapolis and Minneapolis. It is just amazing for them to say, this is a fascist country. Citizens are gunned down. And they absolutely, willingly, willfully ignore the context. That's what communists do. They, they, they preach lies with a little sprinkle of truth. That's why it's so powerful. And I feel like, on the right, we have to take this very seriously and come up with very, very strong narrative. This is not just a war on the streets. This is also a war of narratives.
We're losing that war.
Yes.
With a couple of exceptions, we just don't have people in the mainstream media, the mass media,
Yes.
that will even be honest anymore. I think. I mean, I'm not to get off on a different subject, and I'll talk about this a little bit later in the program. Like this, the Epstein emails that everybody's been dissecting all weekend. I don't know what's true and what's not. And what is upsetting to me as a person who was a journalist and affiliated with a local TV station that was affiliated with ABC News, I honestly don't know anybody that I can trust anymore. There's not one place that I go, yeah, I feel confident that if I invest an hour of my time watching the presentation of the news, that I'm going to get a fact-checked, thoroughly honest assessment of what's happening. So if that's the case, and you're getting, propaganda from one side and, maybe a little more truthful propaganda from the other side, I don't know how you fix this narrative. I'm trying to be very candid and always have been. I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I'm a gay guy. I mean, I've tried to be completely transparent about everything about me so you can judge whether I'm being honest with you or not, and you can factor in whether I have a built-in bias based on who I am. And then, I'm telling people I am deliberately trying not to deceive you. I'm telling you what I think, but I'm trying to present facts and not present things that I know are not factual. And it doesn't seem to matter. You get skewered either way, and it's not moving the needle.
It's really going back to education turned into indoctrination. When the mind is brainwashed, it's so difficult for them to do any thinking. And I understand it because that was what happened to me during the Cultural Revolution. I was so brainwashed, I could not think. I believe that I never had an original thought until after I came here. That means I lived 26 years in China, and way after I came here, I did not have an original thought. I could not criticize because there's nothing to criticize because I was fed lies all my life. So I can relate to. I do think that, I understand why they don't, why they think the way they do. And what helped me, of course, is to learn truth. But I have to be willing to learn truth. A lot of Chinese came here with the same background as mine, suffered under communism. And they came here, they immediately bought this DEI narrative that they believe that they are here, they become a victim. And the white supremacy was their enemy. And they need protection. That's always something that they seek for. They sought protection from the communists, and what happened? But then they come here, because their brain was already kind of, I think it's kind of damaged. Yeah, they come here, they seek protection of Democratic Party against their enemy, white supremacy. So this is something that it takes a long time for them to achieve, to control people's mind. So people ask me, what's the formula to fight back? I don't know. It starts with people's mind, absolutely. And we should, we're here today after what they have done in the past decade. So we have to start fighting back and start with school board. That's why I think to save America, we should start with local, the lowest local, and that's school board, because those people that actually have the power to shape the mind of the younger generation.
There doesn't seem to be a widespread ability to be analytical or objective. Now, when I'm engaging with people on Facebook, there are lots of people who want to argue. I'm not really impressed by people who want to argue. I am interested and intrigued, even if you don't agree with me, if you show up with actual documented fact
Yeah,
where you
fact.
can push back on my assertion. Okay, that's a fair fight. That's engagement that may enlighten me on some level. I'm completely open to that. But it seems to be a never-ending yeah, people have just been trained to reflexively slap back at anything that they
Reaction.
don't
It's
like.
basic. Yeah, it's like I said, answer the call. You don't think, you just do it. And this is something I would suggest. I tweeted about it, and so those school kids walk out classroom, right? They went down on the street to demonstrate against ICE. I said, why not require them to write a short essay, just a short
Yes,
essay,
right.
5 reasons why they against ICE, and 5 reasons why ICE action is justified. If they can do that, they're allowed to go out. Yeah, but
On both sides. Yeah.
on both sides, they can't. I can guarantee they can't come up with good reason, either pro or against ICE. They just go out, and a lot of them, the truth is that it's fun. It's fun to walk out of school, and then they feel morally superior, and that is when a society lose the ability to critically think, and then we really become a slave society, just like communism. People don't think. People no longer can think. And we are getting there fast. Half of the population, seems to me, can't think anymore.
No critical thinking,
No.
no analysis. It's
Yes.
all emotion. I mean, that was one of the things at the Grammys last night. I didn't watch it, but I've seen the clips this morning of if I were going to take political advice or cultural advice, it wouldn't be from the people at the Grammy Awards. No
Yeah.
offense, but because I used to watch all those award shows, the Academy Awards, the Tony Awards, the Emmys, the less so the Grammys. But then I realized how the people that are put in front of you are selected. Because there are a lot of talented people in America. And it's a casting couch situation a lot of times. Who do we think can sell this product? Who do we think, if we pluck them out of obscurity, who can we control and put on stage and sell tickets? And they become very wealthy. I don't want to say slaves. That's not an accurate statement. But they are products. They're human products, and I also have to say that the vast majority of them don't strike me as people who are well-read. Many of them started their careers in their late teens and early 20s, so they haven't lived a lot. And so if I were going to watch or take advice from somebody, it wouldn't be from this crowd of people. But they got up yesterday and acted like they were experts and talked about something that doesn't impact them, like this Bad Bunny guy who's going to perform at the Super Bowl. I mean, I like Puerto Rico. I like Puerto Ricans. I'm not trashing him, but when he says we are not animals, we are not criminals, what are you talking about? Nobody's talking about Puerto Rican. I mean, you're an American citizen. What are you talking about? We. No one's going after you.
That is the result of losing control of our cultural institutions. So there are 3 institutions that's really in the business of shape people's mind. Education, it started from the 30s. We gradually lost total control. We see the data that in many fields, 99% of the faculties are liberals, right?
Oh, yeah.
And then we lose the control of media and entertainment. But it really goes back to the education. Where are those people in media and entertainment come from? They come from the indoctrination camps of our universities. And
Can I interrupt you for a second, Xi? It's
yeah.
interesting. I was an adjunct professor 20 years ago at Virginia Commonwealth University here in Richmond. Wasn't a great time. I was going back and forth to Washington. It wasn't great. But it is very interesting to me. I just finished an entire year of running for lieutenant governor of Virginia. I've been on air as a producer, as a television anchor and reporter. I've been a communications person dealing with the New York Times, the Daily Mail, the Washington Post. I mean, the biggest news NBC, CBS, ABC network as a comms guy for decades now. And there has not been one person who has said, wow, wouldn't it be interesting for John Reid, being a conservative, being a gay conservative, that kind of throws a curveball into it. Why don't we get him to come speak on our campus or teach a class or, teach? Maybe we could talk to him about teaching one day of classes to offer a different perspective than the people that we have on the campus. Not one school, not one institution has been interested. And I'm like, it's not like I'm flying under the radar here and saying, gosh, why doesn't anybody know about me? It's just a weird thing. It's like they're deliberately saying, you are excluded. We are not interested in your perspective. In fact, we want you to go away, and ignoring you is the way we're going to silence you. We're not even going to give you a platform to have a discussion or a debate.
You're out of the conversation. It's because they had that kind of power. That is what I say. You can see that, Republican, their, White House and Congress and Supreme Court, but no, institutionally, we have no control. And that's what's called long march through the institutions.
Right.
People start to hear this phrase, little by little by little, they absolutely take over. And
so I interrupted you. You were saying education, the three institutions, and I interrupted you. Education is the first one that's been taken over. Forgive me for interrupting. What were the other two?
Media and entertainment. Those three institutions are really in the business of shaping people's mind. And then the really, really, really crucial institution that made the other two possible is education. Education, they're all from the same pipeline. And the pipeline is higher education. And at first, it's in higher education. We worry about kids going to college, being brainwashed. Now you send your kids to daycare, to kindergarten. Now they are brainwashed. You saw the video of little kids having, and years ago, having the fake or pretended protests in their classroom, BMM. Now they have, the little kids have protest either in the kindergarten or I'm not sure, on the street with anti-ICE protest. And so this started now as young as possible.
And these are the same kids who are not doing the Pledge of Allegiance every day. There is no opening prayer for school.
Yeah, because
all
America
the things that might
evil.
ground you in the traditional mindset of America, those things have been very systematically removed from the society.
Yes. That is, I think it's failure by the conservatives. We did not realize that the danger, the threat, and we compromise, and we're seeking for common ground. Where's the common ground now? It's a takeover of America by communists. And I saw the White Witch, Spanberger's tweet after she was sworn in, seeking common ground. What is the common ground? There's no more common ground. And
there's no legislation that Democrats have proposed. I mean, I'll have to ponder this, and I'll tell you tomorrow if I can think of something where I would say, oh, this is an effort to solve an issue or deal with an issue with an eye or a mind towards placating or bringing Republicans on board. No. In fact, right now it seems to be full force, let's smash these people while we've got the opportunity.
Can you imagine when they have total power, there's no more argument. Just like China, when they have total power, if you dare to ask question, you're out. either to the gulags or execution side. That is, we can see the preview of what might come if we don't fight back and stop it.
Well, this is why the Trump decision to pull out of some of these blue cities is, I mean, I get it. It's gotten really hot. The press isn't giving you a fair shake. You're losing the public argument, it seems. But pulling out emboldens the bad guys.
Absolutely.
Like the movie theater on Friday night. I've got very reasonable conservative friends who have worked every day of their life. They pay their taxes. They don't let their kids get into trouble. If their kids do get into trouble, they discipline their kids so that it doesn't, somebody else doesn't have to. I mean, they're responsible citizens by any measure traditionally. They are terrified of even saying in social media what they really think about school policy, about naked men in their daughter's locker room. Oh God, I hate that. If I say something, it'll hurt my business. They're terrified of speaking what I think is a very reasonable position, not advocating harming anybody, but just standing up for what they believe in. They're terrified of that. And then these three Antifa types, they're not worried. They show up in their black. They didn't even attempt to hide it. They show up at the movie theater, get into a conflict with people in the movie, and then they walk out. I don't think anybody was detained or arrested for disrupting the movie. I mean, they're not worried. It's like they run the streets, and the good people
Do you know
have
why?
been intimidated into silence.
Did you think about why they're not afraid? Why they're not even, scared? They might get caught. They might be punished. It's because there is an entire communist democratic party behind them. That's exactly why. And if they feel like, here's what I think. Things has changed since 2020, since the BMM riots in Minneapolis. Back then, it was also backed by the Democratic Party. Those people went on the street and Antifa. They burned the street. They absolutely destroyed communities, and they killed citizens. Quite a few people died.
Right.
But they were against.
We don't hear their stories, by the way.
We don't.
The old lady who got hit in the head behind her house on Monument Avenue. And you remember when I was on WRVA, G, I was trying to get everybody on the air so I could talk to them. And I heard about this couple that were attacked behind their house. They were older. Mm-hmm. I mean, they would not talk. They didn't even call the police because they felt like the police, at least in the city of Richmond, might be on the side of the protesters, minimally that the police wouldn't do anything to help them.
Yeah,
and they wouldn't come on the radio to talk.
That's why they're so emboldened. And now, in what happened in 2026 in Minneapolis, this is absolutely an insurrection. And the same people now backed by the same party feel like, this is just a repeat of 2020. But this time, they're fighting against the federal government. They're fighting against ICE. And I believe that, people like Renee Good did not expect that kind of pushback. They feel like this is just 2020 again. So,
they've been trained to think that this is acceptable behavior, and it's clearly not.
But I believe that Alex Pretty is in another category. And those people, they are determined. And also, I think they are devoted and willing to sacrifice their lives. So
I know this is what's crazy, though, G.
After
these people on the left, seriously, are willing to go out and get into a physical conflict with the cops. They are willing to quit their jobs.
Yeah.
They are willing to put their lives on the line. Some of them, and some of them are probably lulled into believing that there are no consequences, but some of them really seem devoted to their cause. And when I look at my people, like last year and even today, I'm like, anybody behind me? Where are you guys? Where are you? Couldn't even bother to vote last year?
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
you sat at home and you were pissy about, I don't like this, I don't like that. Or, we'll just pray and hope that God will sort it out. Oh, well, God is probably looking at you like, I gave you the opportunity to save this situation, and you made a conscious choice not to. You're on your own now, I think.
God only help those who help themselves.
Help
And
themselves.
also,
Good point.
I believe that people still don't understand. And I say half of the population no longer think critically. That include the conservatives. Those people call themselves conservatives and call themselves Republican. They don't think critically either. And so I feel like, if they are really awakened, understand this is a fight for the survival of our republic. What we are fighting against are communists. Communists. It's no longer, oh, those crazy people on the left. I think we will win. But this is the challenge. So many people have no understanding. What the kind of people we see represented by Alex Pretty is absolutely devoted communists. And in China, the CCP depend on those useful idiots and who absolutely willing to get into the death squad and sacrifice their life for the cause. And the thing that I tweeted about is that those Chinese communist martyrs, actually, they died, and it's a good thing for them because they did not see what the cause they sacrificed their life for turned out to be a nightmare. And that is something else those leftists don't understand. Step two. They're only now in step one. Yeah, the fighting
I
of
don't know whether
revolution.
this is propaganda from the right in New York, but Zoran Mamdani, the new mayor of New York, the communist radical Islamist who had money, money was sent to his campaign and to Ghazala Hashmi's campaign in Virginia by the same people, the radical Islamists who are very strategically trying to win certain races, key races across the country in order to establish a foothold in the country. It looks like he's having problems because the positions that he's taken as a communist of, oh, don't tell the homeless people that they can't have an encampment, they have to get off the street. I mean, I don't know why that makes me a bad guy for saying you can't pitch a tent on a public sidewalk or in a public park and you got to go into a shelter. We're just not going to tolerate the denigration physically of our society. Apparently, I'm a horrible person for suggesting that. But now we've got dead people in New York
Yeah.
with the sub-freezing temperatures. New York always has, I mean, I lived there for a little while in Midtown Manhattan. You always have a trash pickup problem, but supposedly there are huge piles of trash. And this goes back to what I saw in the 80s when I first visited New York as a young person. Like, God, who would want to live here? There are mounds of trash that nobody's picking up. Millions of people eating, drinking, throwing stuff out, and the trash is stacking up, and all it takes is one day of strike. And that's the
Paralyze
kind
the
of
city.
mindset
Yeah.
that's being empowered by the communists, by Zoran Mondami. And you're going to live in I won't use Donald Trump's word, a not very nice hole. So,
Yes.
you're going to live in a dump.
Yeah, I think that California and New York City might give people a little preview of what is coming if the Communist Democratic
If we can
Party is in
expose it.
power. Yeah, but that's just a little preview. And what they don't know and they refuse to know is what happened in China, what happened in Soviet Union, what happened to all communist countries, including Venezuela. And they don't want to know it. So they are fighting for a cause. They don't know what that cause will be. That is not a dream. That is a nightmare. And so everybody, that is the thing they don't understand. Everybody will be a victim, including themselves. And actually, they're the first one to go because those true believers are the real problem after the totalitarian in power. They are going to get rid of the true, so-called true believers or useful idiots first, and happen throughout history.
As often as I've seen you, and then I hosted you at the Virginia Forum Speaker Series, you were
Yes, yeah.
so well received at that. That was
Thank you. Thank
one
you.
of our best programs, and I was so thankful you came. we've got another lady coming on the 27th of February to speak to a young female audience, so that'll be interesting. But I've never asked you about your faith, and I'm not really doing that here. But you mentioned the institutions that have been overtaken. I don't know whether the Christian church has been completely overtaken or whether it's been ostracized and sidelined, or a combination of the two.
Thank you. That is an important question a lot of people are not asking. And Charlie Kirk said that. Charlie Kirk said that 85% of the churches has been taken. They're being infiltrated. They are woke church. They are woke churches, or I will call it Marxist Christian churches. That is why, actually, that is the reason where we are where we are today, and started. Not really, I think, not in the educational system, started with the weakening of the church. And that is the problem, because those woke church, they still have their doors open, they still preach the so-called gospel, but it's been subverted. They still call, love your neighbor as yourself. But the neighbor, who are the neighbor now? The neighbors now are illegals. And so they call compassion, and they use all this biblical terminologies or concept, but everything else under it has been changed. And that is a real challenge we're facing today.
Yeah, most churches I go to, I leave very, very frustrated at the end of the service, because it seems like the entire service has been rewritten with language that I think they would argue with me is supposed to be more accessible and more welcoming. And I'll be honest with you, Xi, as a gay guy, I'm appreciative of not being told I'm going to burn in hell, every Sunday at 11 o'clock. That would probably, at this stage of my life, drive me off if someone decided to put that in my face every day. I don't know. I don't know what the future holds, and I'm not really interested in that argument. So I don't want to advocate for a fire and brimstone mindset in every church, but I leave most services kind of frustrated and in consternation rather than at peace. And I try to work through that myself. Like, all right, is it me being rebellious against God? Is that why I'm feeling this? And I should subjugate my feelings to the teachings from the pulpit? Or am I pretty grounded, understanding there are different types of people out there, different lifestyles, if you will, but I think we're losing the foundational grounding of the society in what is right and wrong and moral and immoral, which is way beyond a lifestyle issue. It's about how you engage with others and what your obligations are in society versus what other people have an obligation to provide for you, which is almost zero. And so lately, I've gone to church and sat there by myself for 15 or 20 minutes, because and just tried to be very thoughtful in my prayers, because I just can't take the liberal lecture on Sunday morning anymore. And I think it's not very fulfilling for me, but if that's me, it's just a microcosm, one story, and a lot of other people aren't going to do that. They're just going to walk away completely. I think we're on track for a big, big problem here.
Absolutely. And we talk about the educational system that include seminaries. Most of the seminaries have been infiltrated, and some is outright Marxist. Because Marxists use all those concepts, equality, this very concept cannot be found in any other faces, in any other religion. It's exclusively Christian. And so what it really means is we are all made in the image of God, right? So we are equal in front of our Creator. And now the communists took that concept and then turned into something like equality means what you have, I should have too. So they really, if we don't understand the connection between communism and Christianity, it will be very difficult to defeat communism. And I always say the only weapon we have to defeat communism is Christianity. But the sad situation today is that Christianity has been, or churches has, look at the papacy, look at the Pope. He is pretty much a communist. And so that's for Catholic.
You think the new one, Pope Leo, is?
Absolutely, absolutely. The view he is really coming from the tradition of liberation theology, which is a communist version of Catholicism, and for Protestant, we don't have a pope, but they have to really infiltrate the seminaries, and so now we don't have to even wonder. Is this true? They are infiltrated. They tell you they are infiltrated. They have the BMM flag. They have
Yeah,
Pride
that's true.
flag.
Yeah.
Yeah, they have pro-Hamas. Now they have probably anti-ICE sign. They tell you that is our challenge. Our challenge is absolutely huge. But the first step is still to understand where the challenge is from. And in my first book, I talk about the two cultural revolutions. One is in China, I experienced when I was a schoolgirl, and now here experience again in America. My new book, and it's really talking about the CCP and how CCP came into being, who helped the CCP to rise. Well, to your surprise, or not to the surprise of people who understand, it's all from here. That's why I call it Made in America.
In America, yeah.
It was the United States, for many reasons, knowingly or unknowingly, help to create. I'm not talking about to create the CCP, and all the way through to enable it, and now made it so powerful and become our the deadest threat.
Yeah.
The problem is here.
You bring that
Problem
up, and I'm going to continue to mention this in a lot of our interviews. And I've always tried to be polite to Abigail Spanberger, our new governor, when she was a candidate, when she was a congressperson. When I would see her, I would try to be polite. We don't agree on much, but again, I was raised as a traditional Virginian, and you just are polite to people even if you disagree with them. I'm wondering if I've been suckered here, but she worked for the CIA, and no one seems interested in what she did for the CIA.
Yeah.
And if you talk to most leftists, most Democrats will tell you that one of the things they hate most about America, and it seems to be a long list, is that the CIA and the United States is meddling in other people's affairs, that we are that we're toppling foreign leaders, that we're oppressing people around the world. There's no doubt that we have had engagement in other countries, and I think it's worth examining that. But what I'm puzzled by is these people who are so hostile about that. I didn't see anybody give a damn about examining
right?
where Abigail Spanberger worked, what she did, what the CIA role was. I don't know if she was the secretary or whether she was James Bond, and no one seems to care. Why don't they care?
Well, I know this is the thing. They don't ask the question that the party did not allow them, or they just don't. That is the key. They do not think, they just act.
When people don't ask those questions, to me, it exposes a hypocrisy and a commitment to an agenda. Like, I ask ugly questions about people all the time that make them uncomfortable, and you just got to be able to deal with that.
And something else, did you notice that if they have a tagline against the conservatives, it's all the same. And it's absolutely seems to me, it's just like China. And all the slogans, all the narratives were created by a small group of people at the table and then pushed down. So it is the same thing repeated over and over. And it's absolutely created by what I say is similar to the CCP, a group of people, and in a room and around the table, this is the narrative. To push it down, and all the people below just repeat, repeat, and repeat.
Yeah.
And so,
We've
like,
got to we got to dissect every single email, and I don't know what's true and what's not true in these emails about the Epstein files as it relates to Donald Trump and Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, but then nobody's interested in a candidate who's running for governor of Virginia. That seems weird to me. Like the hyper scrutiny of certain people now in certain situations, right? Suddenly we're really worried about things related to this person, but we're not even going to examine it when it relates to others. And I know you got to go, Xi, but and this is kind of an explosive topic for me to bring up. I don't know that you've discussed it. What do you think about the Islamic situation here? And I try to be careful to talk about radical Islam. Most of the people that I know who are Muslim, candidly, are people who are, by their religious standards, pretty liberal, or they probably wouldn't be friends with me, because they know my story.
I know people too. I know conservative Muslims.
So I don't want to be the person who fans the flames of hostility against decent, innocent people. I really don't want to do that, and I want to be cautious in the way I talk about this. But I am very concerned that there are bad actors who are deliberately trying to empower Islamic leaders, not just practitioners of the faith, not just Muslims, but Islamic leaders who can slowly move Sharia law into mainstream acceptance and an oppressive role in the United States. Am I a little too sensitive or a conspiracy theorist on that?
You've been too nice. Again, you just be very nice. And no, actually, the Islamism made such a headway in the West, especially in Europe and in United States, is because cultural Marxism paved the way. Without the cultural Marxism, without its protection, such as DEI, such as identity politics, they can't make such a wave. They are all protected. So that means communism is protecting Islamism. So that's why they call it unholy alliances. But this,
and it really is. I mean, the only identity that isn't accepted is a conservative identity. I think in the modern America, you're shafted, especially white people. You're shafted, and for the feminists and the gays and every other minority group that has been fighting for equality for 100 years plus, including, I've never seen such overt racism as what I witnessed in the Middle East. Seriously, I've told people this. If you are a dark-skinned black person in the Middle East, you're going to be treated like absolute dirt, unless you've already got money, and then you'll get some admittance into some parts of society. But growing up in the United States, especially in the South, I was conditioned to think that we were the bad guys. And I went to the Middle East and saw women abused, dark-skinned black people treated like absolute dirt and insulted to their faces, and in some cases, I'll tell you this story, physically abused just because of the denigration. And yet this is the mindset that we're inviting in and kind of elevating as if, oh, this is so exciting and unique and new. I think we should watch ourselves. If it was Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson opening, if they were still alive, opening huge evangelical churches, these same leftists would be freaked out about what they consider to be the oppression of evangelical Christianity. But they're not worried at all about the oppression of radical Islam, and maybe not even Islam that's that radical. They just don't care. And I can't help but think they're setting us up for a major conflict.
Absolutely. People need to understand. That's why they need to learn about communism. The communist Democrats, they don't care about Islams. They don't care about the Muslims. They don't care about the illegals. They don't care about gay and they don't care about trans. They don't care about women. They don't care about any of them. They only care one thing, power. And they'll use anyone
Power.
that's useful for them to gain power. If you understand that, it's much easier to understand the kind of threat we're facing.
G. Von Fleet, I'm so glad to be able to see you. And I know you've been on Fox News and all of the major networks, and you're talking to some of the huge podcasters around the world. So for you to spend this time with me, I'm really appreciative. Her book is Made in America. It's just come out, and I hope you'll check it out, because I think if you're looking for something that will minimally make you think and probably point you to see some of the things that might be missing, that you might be missing. This coupled with her first book, Mao's America, it's really enlightening. G, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. All right. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. Producer Dan will join me. We'll talk about some of the other stuff that happened over the weekend as we continue on this Monday edition of the Reid Revolution.
Uh-oh, John, I think we lost your mic. Hit the top of the mic.
Have we been deplatformed
There we
yet?
go.
I mean, God, I'm the one that...
There we go.
See, I'm really worried about that. I'll tell the audience that this weekend we found out that there were big problems with people deliberately sabotaging the page on Facebook, which is where I've got a significant following. So now we've had to create a second page on Facebook, also the Reid Revolution. It just doesn't say with John Reid. And I'm encouraging everybody who follows me on Facebook to like both of these pages, if you would, please. I hate it when people do that and they beg you, oh, please follow my backup page. But the deplatform stuff is real, and all it takes is some sort of concerted effort by a bunch of whack jobs and haters to cause you problems. And then, we're doing this every day, which is a pretty ambitious thing. We could really be in trouble and lose the entire audience. So I'm encouraging you, please, if you're watching this on Facebook, it's great if you're watching it on X or YouTube or one of the other platforms. That's wonderful. But we've created a second page on Facebook. If you can like both, that would be helpful. The Reid Revolution with John Reid is the one you're probably watching now, and we'll be streaming this and showing the clips.
It is the one that you're watching now. Yeah, we're the migration over to the new page will be a process. It's going to be a process, but yes, okay. Yeah, and I'll be posting clips and such to the new page in addition to the old page for the time being, while we try to get critical mass migrated from the one to the other. And I apologize. Okay. Neither John nor I made the arbitrated decision. Oh, you know what we ought to do? Let's create a new page. This was totally necessitated by Facebook and bad Facebook policies, to be quite honest. So be mad at Facebook, not John or me. You can be mad at me if you want to, but I didn't do it. I promise. So, yeah. There you go, John. Enough. That's our disclaimer.
That's our disclaimer. So it's so interesting. Listening to G, I think that was a great conversation with her. Mm-hmm. And we went really long on it. Matt, we could never do that at the radio station. That was great to talk to her. With
and I had a couple
7
of
minutes.
thoughts
We got to go to
what
sell
she said, for sure.
penis pills, That's what we were doing. 7 minutes. We talked to somebody for 7 minutes, and then we have these penis pills we've got to sell, and everybody free. I'm like,
here comes the E word.
What are we supposed to do here?
But it's
people are so hypersensitive.
Inside joke there, folks. Inside joke from.
I am. My mother watches this program.
Yes,
just like
yes, she does.
Listen to the last hour of
the
radio show. And so I try to be aware that my mother is watching, and she is very sensitive about everything. but I'm not going to cater the whole show to her. You know, I mean,
right.
it's not that I'm the raciest guy in the world, but I'm going to spice it up a little bit without crossing a line, I hope. But anyway, but then you listen to somebody like Xi, who's already lived through the communist revolution and the oppression, and comes to the United States thinking she's going to be safe. And then how awful must it be for her to wake up and go, oh, my God, it's happening here. It's what I went through. It's happening again here.
Well, it reminds me of somebody else historically who was actually today would be her birthday. That would be Ayn Rand. I might throw a photo of her up here. But again, somebody who emigrated from a communist country in search of a freer society and got here to discover that America was trying to turn itself into the place that she just left. And she was, are you guys crazy? So, but yeah, no,
Where
obviously a very bright light. She was from Russia. She was from Russia, grew up in Russia, and was able to escape about 5 or 6 years after the communist takeover. I think 1924 was when she left Russia for America and began working in Hollywood.
Been a lot of great thinkers who've come to the United States from Eastern Europe who have been sounding this alarm for a long time. And now you have someone in a contemporary sense like Xi Van Fleet who's saying, watch out, people. I've already dealt with this. You know, do you see what's happening right in front of your face? And honestly, Dan, the fact that everybody can order Uber Eats and watch Netflix every night, and you know that we've got heat, knock on wood, I mean, who knows whether we'll have electricity and heat with these stupid policies the Democrats are putting in place, or whether it's going to cost you an arm and a leg and you've got to downsize your whole life. People are just kind of passive. They don't care. And then look, I'm glad you brought this up. Here's the list. It's not even the full list. There are 50 new tax proposals that the Democrats have come up with, and you need to pay attention to this. And this is how do totalitarian governments, communist governments take over? They impoverish the people so you have no hope and no financial leverage. You are dependent on the government. If something bad happens, you look to the government, and then once you're on the welfare rolls, you never leave. Additional local sales tax possible in all Virginia counties and cities. New personal property tax on electric leaf blowers and electric landscaping equipment. Large employer tax, gun and ammunition tax, new income tax brackets, a delivery tax. This is if you're going to riot over something, don't riot over ICE. Go riot over this. Your Amazon, Uber Eats, FedEx, and UPS orders are going to get hit with an extra tax. Are you freaking kidding me? Why is everyone so passive about that? I mean,
coming soon, they'll put a tax on being taxed.
This is something that I would think that you would care about. Here, put the list back up. Hold on.
Yeah.
Put the list back up.
Sure.
An investment income tax for everybody who does the right thing and puts money aside every month. It's already atrocious what you get hit with when you finally cash out, but now an even higher tax rate. An event tax. You buy a ticket to the circus. You buy a ticket to the baseball game. You buy a ticket to the concert. Storage facility tax. You go to the gym. I need to get my butt in the gym. But now we're going to have a gym membership tax. If this gets passed and Abigail signs it, the governor signs it, a dog walker tax, a dog grooming tax, a counseling tax. You're psycho. You know, your Trump derangement syndrome is finally causing you to have so many problems. You actually are smart and go see a counselor, hopefully one who's not a leftist, and you get taxed on going to a counselor? Come on. Digital personal property tax, new car taxes, highway use fees. Increase in the hotel tax, at least in Arlington, and once it happens in Arlington, it opens it up everywhere. Statewide speed cameras, right? For more fines. I mean, I've said all along, this has never been about protecting people. It's been about a revenue source for local government. A vehicle repair tax, home repair tax, dry cleaning tax. I mean, are you kidding me? These are the same you-know-what jerks who spent an entire year campaigning against me and against Winsome and Jason and every Republican in the House of Delegates, saying, "Oh, we're so concerned about affordability. Oh, we understand your dollar isn't going as far, and Donald Trump has increased inflation," which is baloney. And Republicans don't care about you, which is also bull. And then what do they do? Within weeks of getting into power, they propose all of these taxes. And this is a moment. Somebody said, well, Abigail hasn't signed it. The governor hasn't signed this. And I'm like, well, I haven't heard her come out and denounce it. Have you? Have you? Has anybody said, wow, Governor Spanberger, you ran on affordability, and now your colleagues in the Democrat Party are totally trashing that idea. Which of these taxes are you 100% against? Because you were so hung up on affordability, surely you could tell us which taxes are, dead in the water. Have you heard that? I have not, and I pay pretty close attention.
No, it reflects what we've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and even beyond that for probably decades. But these leftists don't believe that your stuff is your stuff. They think that your stuff is their stuff, and that you have the privilege that they've allowed you to have to keep or maintain whatever percentage of their stuff they've let you. And it's not at all in alignment with the principles of America, the founding principle of this country, the philosophy of individualism and the principle of individual rights. And in maybe somewhat of a response to Xi during her interview, I would say that is the real way to combat communism, totalitarianism, statism is through the philosophy, which is very much a moral philosophy of individualism.
Do you want your stuff to be yours? Do you want your money to be yours? Yeah. I mean, we talked about that a lot with George Allen, that what you earn should be yours. You don't.
Yes.
I mean, if the government is taking 50% of what you earn when you add up all the taxes, I think that's oppressive. What the hell?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not, don't let people deceive you into thinking it's all about building firehouses and big complex bridges.
No, it's for robbing Peter to pay Paul.
It's a welfare redistribution plan for people. I mean, it would be one thing, seriously, if everybody was up in the morning working, right? And different jobs, somebody's going to be the janitor and somebody's going to be the CEO. And okay, but everybody is working. That's not what's happening. You've got an entire group of people, and it's weird that we can't seem to pin down the actual number of people who are really just living based on programs that pay for their cell phone, offer them a debit card so they can go buy food, and pay for some of the basics of life. And they don't, apparently, and, this is one of the good things about social media. I feel like this is not just anecdotal. There are people who will look right into the camera and tell you, I'm taking your money. You white people, or you so-and-so, or you men need to get up and work so that you can pay for my stuff. Excuse me? I mean, I thought maybe I was being a little harsh and maybe imagining this years ago. Now they're telling you right to your face on social media that they want your money and you owe them. Well, pardon me, but screw that.
May I take a quick moment to acknowledge a pet peeve of mine? And it pertains to the word redistribution. I hate the phrase, the redistribution of wealth. Let me explain why. Wealth is created. It is earned. Wealth was not somehow distributed, and government is coming in to redistribute the wealth. Government is the one.
They would argue that the people who have the wealth earned it off the backs of the working people, and so and it's unfairly distributed, and so they're going to balance that out.
And that's just a false notion.
But it completely ignores the fact, like this project that you and I are doing, Dan.
Yeah,
you put in untold hours. I put in a lot of hours. The money isn't pouring in. So forgive me if we do make this successful financially. I'm not interested in giving money to dumbass people who haven't done anything. Like this is a huge risk, and it's involving a lot of effort and work and certain talents that certain people bring to the table. And no, I don't owe you money off of this project.
Right.
I don't.
No, that's true.
You're not going to bully me into thinking that I somehow have to hand money over to other people. No, I'm not interested
in
doing that.
On the subject of Ayn Rand, I mean, the plot of Atlas Shrugged, spoiler alert for people who haven't read a 75-year-old book at this point. The whole point of that book is that if the creators, the innovators, the scientists, if the people who actually create wealth decide to shrug, say, that's it, I'm not holding the world up anymore, I'm going away, all those quote-unquote laborers to whom wealth is quote-unquote distributed or whatever else
will be left with nothing.
They're up a creek without a paddle.
They'll be left with nothing.
Yes.
And I hate to break it to everybody, that is happening on a small scale in Virginia right now. There were people who were getting ready to hit eject before Glenn Youngkin and the Republicans got elected 4 years ago. And then they thought, okay, well, Virginia has come back to its senses. This is balancing out. There's a few people I know who have told me, I already got a place in Florida. I'm out of here. You know, I'm in the process of figuring out how to appropriately shut things down so I don't lose my butt. And that's a problem. And that's what's happened to a lot of the, there's still big businesses in New York, still some big businesses in New Jersey. But it's the, if you watch a nature show and they talk to you about the delicate ecosystem of this rainforest or the delicate ecosystem of the coral reef, I think we have been conditioned and educated to appreciate that. You dump a bunch of oil in and you kill this little fish. That fish is what the other fish feed on, and then you start to have a cascading effect that destroys the coral reef, right? Somebody goes and steps all over the coral and the coral dies. Now the fish don't have a place to hide, and there's, just it messes up the entire ecosystem. And it's weird to me that we are so sophisticated as a people in the modern era that we appreciate and understand that, but we don't get it when it comes to our own economic ecosystem. If you raise taxes, there is a point at which you crush and you destroy really important elements. And I guess, Altria and maybe CoStar and I don't know, pick the other big companies that are out there domestically here in Virginia and big companies across the country. I guess they'll survive, although we've seen a bunch of big businesses go out in my lifetime. They may survive, but you can tax it to a place where the people who are on the upswing are not on the upswing anymore. And where someone says, I don't have that money, you've crushed the banks, so I don't have access to capital, and it's just too complicated now for me to get started. For the average person to hire the lawyer and spend $20,000 to get a lawyer to help you set up all the paperwork. Who has that money? Who has that money? Unless you go borrow it. Who just has $20,000 to go hire a lawyer and take care of all the regulatory responsibilities that we now require? If you want to know why we may be in decline, it's that taxation and that regulation. That's what we're talking about. And Democrats love it, and Republicans don't hate it enough.
Ask yourself an honest question, folks, and many of you probably already have. Is the government that we have today more or less paternalistic, tyrannical, etc., than the government from which the colonists rebelled in 1775?
Oh, Lord. I think from a tax standpoint, it's much worse, much worse. And it, I guess the argument would be at least you get to vote and send somebody to Washington and to Richmond to hypothetically represent you. But this is where I think Xi's point, we've lost the social contract that made America great and made America financially, economically, and culturally successful, I think, because instead of that rugged individualism, which Democrats, including Zohran Mamdani, and I would suggest Ghazala Hashmi and Abigail Spanberger and the rest of them have such disdain for, instead of that rugged individualism being the primary mindset with which everyone approaches every challenge in life, the new mindset is, what can the government do for me? What can the government give me? What am I owed? What have you done to make me less than? And how can I seek revenge on you? Even if it's something that I imagine was done to me 150 years ago. It might have been done to my grandfather, my grandmother, or, some distant family member, but I'm going to exact revenge on you today. So collectivism winds up working out in their mind, at least, very well. And so if you lose the social contract of you're responsible for yourself here, that's a problem.
I wanted to bring up this. This is the correct political spectrum logically. G mentioned left versus right in her interview, and she talked about left being communism and at least the idea of right being fascism. This is not true. Fascism is a form of collectivism. Nazism, which routinely gets associated somehow with the right, is a leftist ideology. Nazism is shorthand for National Socialism. But the social contract to which you referred is in the blue there. We were an individualistic society founded on the basis of individual rights. And this idea that democracy is somehow rights respecting, that is not true either. Democracy is, as I've said before, two wolves and a lamb deciding what's for dinner.
It's organized mob rule.
Yeah.
Yes,
it is.
Yes, it is. And I'm over that.
And I've said, John, when I would guest host for you at WRVA, I would say all the time, I'm the one who can actually say that I'm for minority rights as an individualist, because the truest minority on earth is the individual human being. If you're not an individualist, you're not really for minority rights. How about that?
Certainly true. Make it work on your own without the government intervening. Real quick, and I know we're over. Surprise, surprise. Let me take a look at that Don Lemon image. Don Lemon, of course, the former CNN anchor. I'm not going to overstate it. I knew Don Lemon way back when, and I knew him because he was a gay guy, and he was had a really good couple of media jobs, and I was in media, so our paths crossed a couple of times. I didn't dislike the guy. I thought he was good looking, articulate. He was doing well with his career. It's just crazy the way he's behaving. And the fact that he was arrested, I hate to say this, I think it was the right thing to arrest him, because he was not acting as a journalist. He was acting as an activist.
He was violating property rights.
Well, and the idea that we're going to mainstream going into a church and disrupting a church, if there was ever anything that most people agreed you don't do, right, it's you don't disrupt people in their place of worship. I mean, we've been having that conversation. Put that back up, though. I didn't reference, please, if you don't mind.
Sure.
That was, you don't disrupt people in their place of worship. That's been one of the things about ICE. Oh, my God, is ICE going to go into the churches? I'm unaware of them going into the churches. I think they have probably inevitably picked people up around churches, but I don't think they've gone into the church. Remember that woman who took shelter in the basement of one of the churches here in Richmond and lived there for, 2 years and dared anybody to go into the church? Okay, I mean, I am going to protect religious rights pretty fervently. But my point in sharing this with you from the Human Rights Campaign, which is cleverly named, this is the leftist gay rights group, national group. Millions and millions and millions of dollars in donations every year. Big, fancy black tie dinners with celebrities. And, at one time, I kind of admired the fact that they were preaching normalcy within the gay rights movement, not weirdo, public sex and everything. I don't care what you do in your bedroom. I really don't care what you do in private, but I think all of us have an obligation to conduct ourselves with some level of decency, at least in public, right? Don't go around behaving like a total whore or hedonist in public, at least. So here's Don Lemon, who I think I can make the argument you should not be defending Don Lemon disrupting a church service simply because he's a gay man or a gay black man. I mean, he crossed the line. We stand with you, Don Lemon. An attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. What are you talking about? I assume they're talking about him being gay, right? So what, are you going to excuse illegal, bad behavior because somebody's gay? I mean, and they push this thing out all over the place. I bring it up, and I don't want to constantly refer to me, but I have to point out the hypocrisy. When the attacks were happening against me in Virginia, lies, smears, totally disgusting things being said about me in order to either get me to quit the race for lieutenant governor or to damage me so badly to the point where I couldn't function. And it was deliberate. I had people tell me even before I ran, we're going to destroy your life. So I'm not making this up. There were people who said, if you dare run, we will destroy your life. Well, I'm the wrong person to say that to because that just makes me mad. And I am determined not to let you win. But no one from the Human Rights Campaign had one damn thing to say to defend me. And people were lying about me. They're not lying about Don Lemon. Don Lemon has committed a crime. I think we'll let the jury and the judge decide how they want to adjudicate this. Minimally, he crossed a cultural line, which I think gay men and women should be very concerned about. You already have a lot of hostility from religious people. If you're not going to stand up for their rights, don't be surprised when they turn their ire against you, even after working very diligently for 30-plus years to gain their relative acceptance. I find this so hypocritical and stupid. It's bad policy and bad PR if you actually want people to like you. And when you look at who they don't defend, they don't defend someone like me. They were happy to watch me burn alive in the public square, but then they'll defend somebody who is breaking the law, who's a leftist. And when people behave that way, when they're not objective and they don't treat everyone fairly and pull some perspective, that should tell you everything you need to know about. That group is a bad group of people. I hate to say that because I used to have hope that they would do the right thing. They consistently do not do the right thing now, and I got to call them out for it.
Yeah, our understanding of proper civics is so bad these days. We really need re-education in this society about the principles of this country. But we talked about freedom of religion on Friday. We're talking about freedom of speech now. People don't understand that these things don't mean you can do whatever you want wherever you want. My liberty ends at your nose and vice versa. Yes, I have the right to free exercise of religion, or not at all. That does not include practicing a religion that calls for the murder of everybody else. Don Lemon has a right to speak on his own dime in his own den. He can't go to somebody else's house and yell his bloody head off. That is not freedom of speech. That's a violation of that person's property rights.
Right, and everyone's lost that narrative,
here.
Even with the ICE protests. You could hate ICE. I think you're a fool. I think you're stupid if you do. And, law enforcement enforcing laws that have been on the books for 40 years doesn't seem like a tyrannical move to me. It seems like we've been reckless by not enforcing those laws for 40 years, and now there's a real consequence to it. But you don't get, no matter what you think, even if I'm ticked off, like I'm pro-life, and I'm in the minority in Virginia, apparently, because I'm pro-life, I don't get to go and attack people who are not pro-life. I don't get to go set the abortion clinic on fire. And in fact, if I was an elected official, I would tell everybody, hey, I'm with you on the fundamental principles here, but you don't get to go commit a crime in order to, gosh, I hate to say this, even save the lives of babies. If there was ever a moment where someone might contemplate that and be able to justify it morally, maybe that would be the scenario, like I'm going to save these children, but you can't do it. You need to convince people, and you need to change the law. If I can be that intellectually honest and that committed to the rule of law about something that I feel very passionately about, well, you damn well can be sure I'm going to try to hold you accountable over something like ICE, where it's this fake moral preening that we're all subjected to, this self-righteous, high moral attitude from people who I know generally have very few morals, and they are demonstrating it on a daily basis while they preach to us. I'm kind of sick and tired of it.
Well, quite simply, rights are proverbial shields, not swords. Your rights pertain, for instance, to what you have already freely acquired, not what you don't have and want to take from others.
Other people,
That rights. There's a reciprocity there, and we all have to respect our boundaries. Rights. A rights-based society is about the respect.
Did you use the word boundaries? What are the boundaries these days? Nobody seems to accept any boundaries.
Oh no, we're off the reservation with regard to all this stuff.
Nobody accepts.
Nobody understands these principles anymore, and that's to the great discredit of our educational system, which of course is government run, and it shouldn't be.
Well, I hate to end the program because I've enjoyed the conversation. I really was glad that G came on. And of course, as usual, we've got a bunch of stuff we didn't get to talk about. We'll kick it to tomorrow. We'll be back tomorrow. Now, I may have to be on a little early with you. I haven't told you this, Producer Dan.
Oh, okay.
We may have to start the show a little early if you don't mind, because Alonso has surgery tomorrow.
Oh, okay. So he was able to reschedule?
Yes.
Oh, that's good. Well, it's good that it was just a week. Yeah.
So I'm going to be the podcast host and the nurse tomorrow, apparently.
Coming to you live from Bon Secours.
I know, yeah. But I think we can still squeeze everything in. You and I can talk about this, but maybe we start a little bit early. Maybe an hour early tomorrow, but we'll see.
Okay, yeah, that's totally fine. I just want to remind everybody about our email address, thereidrevolution@gmail.com. You can write us there and share your thoughts. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor for the show, we'd love to hear from you. We're having lunch meetings this week with potential sponsors about that, but we'd love to have you on board and have you be part of the Reid Revolution in a very formal sense. Isn't that right?
Let us know what you're thinking.
That's right.
And
exactly.
That's a good way to reach us, thereidrevolution@gmail.com. Don't forget to give us a thumbs up and to like the new page on Facebook and give us a like and a good review on all of the social platforms where you watch the Reid Revolution or listen to the Reid Revolution. You can download the podcast on Apple and Spotify. Producer Dan, I hope you have a great Monday. And I will see all of you tomorrow morning for the continuation of the Reid Revolution.